This is another versus battle. I've done these in the past. They've done really well. It helped a lot of people, so let's keep it going. This is the Q70 from Samsung versus the X900H from Sony. If you're caught in the mix and don't know which one to purchase, hopefully this video will help you out. So stick through to the end, and at the end I'll give you an exact idea of what you should do based on what kind of viewer you are. Also, if you haven't subscribed, be sure to do so to get more content like this, and obviously hit the bell notification so you know exactly when I upload. And for those of you that like to go into my comment section and go straight from my jugular because of my opinions or because of my last few reviews, just keep something in mind. The way that you see something is very different than the way that I see something. We both have different eyeball tests. You might go into Best Buy and I might go into the same Best Buy. We could look at the same TV and see something pretty different. So keep that in mind. These are my opinions. This is what I think, but my opinions are backed by a few different places of research, and one of them is ratings.com. If you go on their website, you can compare different TV models. They do thorough research on all the different TVs and give you an exact idea of what you should purchase based on what you're looking for, if you want to get into those kind of details. If not, stick through in this video and we'll go into detail next. All right, let's get into some of the specs really quickly, and then from there, I'll give you my pick for which TV does better in three different categories. One is color, the other one is motion, and the last one is just an overall recommendation. Honestly, before I was doing research on these TVs and before I saw them, I thought Sony is going to kill Samsung, but I was surprised. So let's go over some of the specs for the Q70 first. Now this TV comes in a variation of 49 inches to 85 inches. You get 49, 55, 65, 75, 85. The Sony only comes 55 and up. Samsung uses quantum dot technology. They say it unleashes a massive spectrum of 1 billion shades of color, doesn't wash out any color with varying levels of brightness. In other videos, I've talked about how Samsung washes up the brightness and washes down the color. I guess with this quantum dot technology that they have, that's supposed to fix that issue, but I don't know if I'm a believer just yet. And then Samsung also has quantum HDR, but does not support Dolby Vision. So that's kind of big. If you care about that, think about it. Samsung does not support it. So basically, to sum all that up, what it means is that Samsung has a wide color gamut. You'll be able to see a lot of color and be able to see the color accurately, or so Samsung says. Again, I'm not trying to hate on them. It's just Samsung is notorious for having a panel that is crazy bright, but just not very accurate in their color. Apparently the quantum dot technology will help with that. Samsung also has 4K AI upscaling. This is something that a lot of TVs have at this point for 4K TVs. We're starting to get into 8K upscaling, so it's not a huge feature to talk about or think about, but if you care about it, Samsung does have the 4K AI upscaling. And then also with the wide color gamut, Samsung has a direct LED backlit panel, supreme UHD dimming, and a dual LED technology, basically that adjusts color tone so that it's more accurate to how it looks in real life. So going back to just Samsung trying to moderate how bright they make a panel and then also make the colors not washed out. So all of these technologies should help with that. And then the panel itself is very bright. It's 350 to 750 nits based on the settings you're using. The Sony only gets to like 500 nits and then kind of goes out on you. So Samsung does have a very bright panel, so keep that in mind. Now, depending on which site you're looking at, you'll see the Q70's motion rate is either 240 or 120. Native, this panel is 120 Hertz. Motion rate is 240. So there's an upscaling feature that upscales the content to 240. Like I've stated in previous videos, I care about the native, and that is 120 Hertz. And then for those that are next-gen gaming, this TV only has one HDMI 2.1 input, and Samsung has it on this TV. This was a little bit ago, but they said that the USB ports on this TV are efficient for the 4K 120, which is crazy to me. I don't know. I don't know if that's true. I'd have to test myself to see that, but one HDMI 2.1 port on this TV. And that one HDMI 2.1 port is only on models 55 inches and up. So for those in Europe that have access to the 49 inch, that 49 inch model does not have the HDMI 2.1. So this TV also has two 20-watt speakers. It's not anything crazy. Most people with a TV like this will hook up a soundbar anyway. This TV uses Wi-Fi 5, and most TVs at this price point do at this point, and then Tizen is the OS system. It's an okay system. I think it's very similar to WebOS, just a slightly different layout, but I'd say it's probably better than Android TV that Sony uses. So those are some of the quick specs for the Samsung model. Now, I'm not going into detail of each and every spec. That's not the point of this video. This is just a quick guide for people if they're caught in a dilemma to help them make a decision. So let's get into the X900H spec. This comes in 55-inch to 85-inch models, 55, 65, 75, and 85. So there's no 49-inch model in this TV like there is in the Samsung. The contrast on this TV is controlled by full array local dimming, and the Sony actually supports HDR10 and Dolby Vision. The Samsung did not support Dolby Vision, so keep that in mind. This is a 120 hertz panel, and it has 4 HDMI ports, and 2 of them are 2.1 inputs. So if you're somebody that's next gen gaming and you want the 4K 120 hertz, this TV has 2 ports for you for that. This TV also supports VRR and ALLM. It didn't support it before, but after a recent update, this support is enabled. And this TV averages around 375 nits. The Samsung was anywhere from 375 to 750, I believe. This one is about 375, so keep in mind it will be a less bright display than the Samsung. And then we've got Android TV that Sony uses. I think Android TV is the worst platform out of all of the platforms. I'm not saying that it's bad, but it's just not as good as a WebOS system or Tizen. Now let's break it down by category. There's 3 categories: color, motion, and then my overall recommendation to you. For color, this is an interesting one. I thought that Sony was going to blow Samsung out of the water just because I've said Samsung takes the brightness, kind of flushes it up, and then that kind of gets rid of some of the color. But they've got this technology like quantum dot technology that helps with that. So overall, Samsung does a bit better with contrast, but Sony does better with local dimming. Samsung is a bit more bright. I've kind of said that 1,000 times at this point, but Sony does better with black levels and blooming overall. So if you look at ratings, this is somewhere I disagree with them. They said that Samsung does better with black levels than the Sony, but Sony, as everybody in the industry knows, Sony does really well with black levels. That's kind of what they were known for like the last 10 years, and I'm going to stick with Sony on that. Sony also wins the battle with gray uniformity, and then color overall, Sony's going to be a little bit more accurate. That's based on my eye test and then also based on a lot of people's reviews. I think that Sony's going to do better with making it seem like the color that you're seeing is accurate to what it was like in real life. So if you're a movie watcher, then this would be a TV for you, which is the Sony. If you're somebody that watches movies here and there, but you don't really care about the color accuracy as much, then you would go with the Samsung. If you want a brighter panel, if you're in a room that's kind of bright already, you want a panel that's also bright, Samsung would be the one to go to. But if you want more of a color accurate model, then you go with the Sony. So let's go on to motion. Samsung does better with motion blur, and then with judder and input lag, both TVs are almost equal. Both support VRR. And then Samsung only has 1 HDMI 2.1 input, whereas Sony has 2. So if you're somebody that has an Xbox and a PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and PS5, then Sony is really the only option for you because Samsung only has 1 port, whereas Sony has 2. So if you're watching a lot of sports, if you're watching a lot of anything that's kind of fast-paced and fast-moving, both of these models will do pretty well for you. Samsung does have the 240 hertz motion rate, so that upscales the content to 240 hertz, whereas Sony only has 120 hertz. But both TVs did pretty well with input lag. Both TVs did well with judder. So either way you go, you're going to get a pretty good model when it comes to motion. If I had to give one of these TVs the title for it, I would go with, I was about to say Sony, I would go with Samsung for this, just because of the motion rate upscaling feature. I'm not a huge fan of upscaling, but I'd have to give it to Samsung on this. If you're looking for an overall suggestion, if you want something that's very accurate with the color, you really care about that, then you go with Sony. If you're somebody that's watching a lot of sports, playing a lot of games, then you go with the Q70 from Samsung. But either way you go, if you flip-flop and go to the other way, you'll get a pretty good TV. Just keep in mind the Samsung will be a lot more bright of a panel based on the settings that you have it adjusted to. The Sony can get bright as well, but you kind of have to take the settings up a notch as well to get that brightness. So if you care for a brighter panel, don't care for color as much, go with the Samsung. If you watch a lot of sports, a lot of video games, go with the Samsung. But if you do all of those, you can still get the Sony and get a pretty good model. Now, if you have disagreed with anything that I said, leave it in the comments below. We could have a discussion about it. I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of things that you disagree with from these, but I try to keep it as scientific as possible, even though it's not really scientific, but hopefully this gives you a little bit of insight. And if you found this video helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And the next versus battle will be between the Q80 and the NanoCell 90. So stay tuned for that.